My name is Megan. You're watching Miss Megan Knits. Links to find me on Ravelry, by email, all that stuff are in the description box below, as well as links to absolutely everything I talk about this episode. That way you can find it if you want to buy it or purchase it or check it out. My 2 weeks have been really interesting, actually. I've gone back to school. It's been a couple years since I've been in school, and now I'm back online in school, so that's really fun. So far, I think my professor seems cool and my classmates seem cool, so I'm just excited to finally get back on track with my education. That's what's going on with me. But what's also going on with me is the weather. I live in New England. The weather can be really unpredictable sometimes. It's been really hot, and then all of a sudden it's been kind of crisp in the air, and that lets me know fall is coming, which means it's sweater season, which means I need to finish my sweater. So mostly what I've been doing is knitting on my sweater, and I haven't made much progress on anything else. I guess I have now that I look at my notes and see all the stuff that I have in my notes, but mostly I've been working on my sweater. So I think that's what I'm going to show you first, so you can see what's been eating up most of my time. Alrighty, here it is. So when we last podcasted, when I last talked to you all, I had only been about maybe this far up the front. I had done a couple of the cables, and I actually finished the whole front. And then what you do is you sew one shoulder seam, the right shoulder seam, right here, which I must admit is one of my best seams I've ever done. I haven't done very much seaming, but it's one of my best. I have pickup stitches for the neck, and you knit the neck. And the neck is completely flat because the whole piece is completely flat, so you have just kind of this big thing hanging around. And then what you do once you finish the neck is you seam the shoulder, the other shoulder, and you pick up and knit the sleeves flat, and then seam them, and then the side seams. So it's a lot of seaming. I had learned the hard way that if you drag a piece of yarn through a seam too many times, like you make a tail that's too long and you try to do the whole seam with one tail of yarn, it'll break, it'll disintegrate on you. This yarn disintegrated on me and I didn't know what to do, so I kind of improvised a little bit, so I'm hoping my shoulder seam holds up. And if not, I know how to fix it, so it's not a huge deal, but it startled me a little bit. So this sweater is the Wharfedale sweater by Sarah Hatton. I still don't know how to say it. The yarn I'm using, let's pull that tag out, shall we? This is the Fiber Co. Luma. It's a blend of merino, cotton, linen, and silk. And let's see what the percentages are. 50% wool, 25% cotton, 15% linen, 10% silk. It's a DK weight yarn, so this is a DK weight sweater. It's working up a little slower than other sweaters I've knit that have been worsted weight, but it's coming along nicely. This colorway is Pearl River, and of course I will link to all that in the description below so you can find it. What do I think about this yarn? It sheds like crazy. I have little, not pills, because pills kind of stick to the fabric and you need like a gleaner to remove them. These are just balls of fluff that are in my way when I'm knitting. I have to pick them off and kind of flick them. And then they get all over my lap. It looks like I've been petting a weird green dog, actually. It's all kinds of fuzz. So I'm hoping after a couple of washes, this sweater won't do that when I'm wearing it. But yes, the needles I'm using, you use 2 sizes of needles. So you use smaller needles for the bottom ribbing, and you use smaller needles for the beginning of the picking up stitches and the neck. Most of what I've done is with the smaller needle. And then you start to knit with a larger needle. And then the sleeves, the cuffs are done with a smaller needle. So I actually don't have a circular in the size I need, which would be a size 2 to get gauge. So I have been using straights. They're not the longest straights I've ever used, they're not the shortest straights I've ever used. I don't know how long they are. They're size 2s. They're aluminum, I think, but I think they're coated with something because they don't make that scratchy aluminum sound, or they kind of do. But not while I'm knitting, it's not bothersome. I find a lot of aluminum needles are too sticky and they're too, they make too much noise when I knit with them, and these aren't doing that. So far I'm liking these. These are old. They say Susan Bates on them, so that's what I'm doing. I would prefer a circular needle just because when you have all that weight, especially with the neck of the sweater, all the weight of the sweater is hanging off of one of your needles at one of the points. And it hurts your wrists, and it's difficult to maneuver, and it's not my favorite thing, but it did work out just fine, so I can't complain too much. The size 4 needles I'm using are in fact circular. These are a larger gauge circular, interchangeable circular set that I have, the Knitter's Pride marbles. I couldn't find these on the Knitter's Pride website. I'm not sure if they've been discontinued. So when I'm gonna link in the description box below, I'm gonna link to Webs, who still sells them. So you can find them there. Or other places if you want to Google it. I think they're really cool looking. They're sticky but not too sticky. They're great for beginners. Acrylic needles are great for beginners, I think, because the stitches don't slide so rapidly on them. So you have a little bit more thinking time when you're knitting. I'm a little beyond needing that aspect, but I still like them. They were my first ever needle set. I have kind of a sentimental feeling about them. This is the sweater I'm knitting. You can tell now that it's the same sweater. Before you couldn't even tell it was the same sweater, but now you can see. I did the front, this is the neck, and this is the sleeve that you pick up. Everything is knit flat. A lot of people on Ravelry have modified the design to be knit in the round because people just like knitting in the round and don't like seaming. But I chose to knit this pattern the way it was written. One, because I haven't knit a lot of sweaters, so I'm not entirely comfortable in modifying patterns. And two, because I don't mind seaming. I don't mind knitting flat. It's a skill I'm going to need to learn, so I'm going to learn it. And I think it's kind of cool that it all works out so neatly when you seam it in this weird configuration. Seam one shoulder, do the neck, seam the other shoulder. Yeah, I like it the way it is. I also want to talk to you about the bag I'm using. I love this series of bags from AC Moore. They're the Nicole's Boutique bags. I have several of them. They look kind of floral printed, they're quilted. They have all different kinds of styles, backpack styles, duffel bag styles, tote bag styles. And I'm going to show you the first bag I was keeping this sweater in. Is this one. This bag has very special meaning to me. I bought it at a very sentimental time in my life, and I like to use it a lot because it makes me feel happy when I look at it. But anyway, this is a Nicole's Boutique bag. The patterns change every season, so you're always getting something new when you go into AC Moore. But the reason why I don't use that bag for the sweater anymore is because the sweater got too big. That bag might fit a sweater folded up nicely, but when you start to have the neck picked up, it just doesn't, there's so much sweater and it's so big and you can't really fold it properly and it just doesn't fit. So I had to buy a bigger bag. This bag is much more roomy. It's a Nicole's Boutique bag as well. I love the pattern on it. The link I put in the description to this links to the search page on AC Moore where you can find all of the different styles you can buy online. But if you go to your local AC Moore, they're in the kind of clearance section bins in the front. At least if your AC Moore is set up like mine is. And they'll just always be there because they always change out the patterns, but they're a continuous thing. My dog is chewing on a noisy toy in the background, but people have told me to stop yelling at her in my videos. So I'm just gonna let her go, but if it's annoying, I'm sorry. In this bag, we have this giant front pocket where I have my pattern and my log. I say again, with most of my knitted projects, I log how much time I spent doing them, my average mood, my average difficulty. And then I put that information on my Ravelry page for future reference. So I can see if I liked knitting something, if I didn't like knitting something. I can see how long something took me, like to the minute. I think that'll be really helpful. And then in here I have my quick grab tools. I have a pack of Post-it notes. These are so handy. Lots of times when I see the directions all crammed together in a magazine page, it's hard to understand what's going on. But if I can pull out a direction and then make like tally marks and stuff to make sure, oh, yep, did this direction, did this direction, did this direction, did this direction, it's really helpful. So I like to have these on hand. I have a pen and a pencil for marking out patterns, writing on Post-it notes, whatever. I have my tape measure that is currently in a state of disarray. But it's here just because I don't want to have to reach into my Notions bag to grab the tape measure every time. I just want to have it right close. And then while I was doing the cabled section, I had my cable needle in there. I'm not doing cables anymore. There's no more cables, so I put that back in my Notions case. In the big portion, you can see they have pouches along the sides. In these pouches, I have things like my gauge swatch, I have my notions case with all my notions in it, I have my needles that I'm not using, I have the sweater in the big compartment along with the balls of yarn and the magazine. And there's still room for more, so once the sweater has sleeves, I'm not going to worry about it being too big. And it all carries on my shoulder because the straps are long enough to do that. I love this bag. I love the other bag too. I love this bag. I will be purchasing more of these bags as time goes on because I just love them and they make great project bags. They're super cute. People comment on them all the time. So that's a work in progress. I forgot to mention I'm not doing FOs today because I don't have any. I have one FO that I'm going to show you at the end because it's not exactly knitting related and it's very small, but mostly I don't have any FOs. I do have a lot of whips, so that's what I'm going to be showing you today. And this next whip is actually a new design that I am working on that I will be putting on Ravelry to sell. I'm super excited about it. I think it's coming out really good. I'm not quite sure what to name it. Right now it's just being called the Reversible Twist Scarf. How did this Reversible Twist Scarf come to be? Well, I was working on my sweater, and my sweater has these, in between the cables, it has these 1/1 twists that are kind of like cables, but you don't use a cable needle. You knit into the back stitch and then knit into the front stitch and then slide them both off. And I realized that a couple rows down I had not twisted one of them, so it looked odd. And I'm sitting there and I'm staring at it because that's what I do when I encounter a problem with my knitting. I stare at it for a while. And I asked, other people's opinion of, oh, how noticeable is it? Fairly noticeable. So I wasn't sure if I could drop down and fix it because I wasn't exactly sure if I could spiral the twists back up correctly. So what I did, I made a swatch. This is what my swatch looked like. I didn't intend for the swatch to come out looking ribbed. I intended for like a stockinette background, some purl stitches, and then the twists. But it came out looking kind of ribbed. And you can't even see where my mistake was. I made a mistake on purpose, dropped down to try and fix it, and you can't even see. I don't even know which side is which. I think it's this side. I think I did my garter on the bottom. You can't even see. I fixed it. So then I had the knowledge to attempt it on my sweater, and I fixed the sweater, and the sweater looks great. But then I'm looking at this, and I really liked the way it looked. I liked the ribbed, and it didn't look too bad on the other side. So I had the thought, oh, maybe I'll make it into a scarf, and then I kind of put it away for a little bit because I didn't have the exact strike of magic inspiration that I was looking for. Well, then I came across a blueprint class on reversible stitch patterns. It had some helpful tips on making cables reversible, on making lace reversible, on making regular stitch patterns reversible, and not just reversible like the same on both sides, but reversible like pretty on both sides, but different. And I had my moment. That was my genius moment. I was like, I can make this scarf reversible using some of the tricks she showed in the class. So I got to working, and I wrote up a 2-row repeat that kind of made something like this, and it's reversible. And then I put it down. I picked it back up to work on it. I'm sitting there watching TV. I figure, oh, relaxing TV knitting. And I'm looking at it and I can't figure out which row I'm on. I'm trying to read the knitting. Am I on row 1? Am I on row 2? Am I on row 1? Am I on row 2? I look at the pattern. Am I on row 1? Am I on row 2? Right, I look at everything, the chart, everything I had written out, and realize that my 2-row repeat was actually a 1-row repeat. That my 2 rows were the same. So I guess it's a 1-row repeat scarf. So now I have to, change the whole document of my pattern to make sure it looks like it's a 1-row repeat, which it is. And but that makes it even easier because then you don't have to think about it. And then the cool part is you don't have to memorize the chart. You can read the knitting. It's pretty easy to tell what you're going to do where the twists are once you get a little bit of fabric going. It's not difficult to follow. So yes, this will be my next design. Once I finish it up, write up the pattern, get everything set up, so that'll be my next design. The yarn I'm using, if I can find the label, is Lion Brand Lion's Pride Wool Spun in the colorway Periwinkle. I believe this yarn has been discontinued from what I looked at it online. I did find this at a thrift store. 3 balls of it, actually, for like not very much money. So I don't know how much it would be if you just bought it outright. A nice yarn, squishy, it's cuddly. 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It's a number 5 bulky. The cool thing about this scarf is that I provide instructions, just like I did on my Guarded Heart scarf, on how to adapt it to fit different gauges. So I am writing all this up for a bulky yarn, number 5. But if you wanted to use a worsted, if you wanted to use a fingering even, if you wanted to use a super bulky, I have instructions on how to adjust the pattern to make that work for you. I believe actually all this yarn has been discontinued, but I did find a link on Amazon to where you can purchase it, so I will link that. I am using US 10 needles. These are the Knitter's Pride Cubics, so they're square. I really like them. They make it so I can't death grip the needles as much, and I think that helps my wrists. They're the special length. They're the shorter tips for the 16-inch circular, which is what I've got going right now, 16-inch circular. You could use regular length tips in a 24-inch circular to knit the scarf, or you could use straights, or you could use whatever configuration works best for you with whatever you have. But I like using 16-inch circulars for scarves because the needles don't take up that much more room than the scarf itself, so it's just nice and compact. Those I could find on the Knitter's Pride website, so that's what I'll link to. And then, my bag. This is a Boca bag that I got from Job Lot for like, I don't know, $8, something like that. It was a steal. I love this bag too. It has pockets on the inside. It's nice and roomy. It's got amazing pockets on the outside. I actually took this bag with me on a vacation to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and put all my knitting in here. I've had a shawl and a sock, and I put all the yarn I needed in here. And once the shawl got kind of big, it started to take up the whole room, so I needed a separate sock sack. But for the way there, when everything was still pretty small, it fit everything perfectly. I think it'd be good for a shawl, or for if you're doing like socks 2 at a time and you need a little more room than a sock sack. Or if you're doing multiple pairs of socks, or if you're storing socks that you need to knit the second one of and you haven't yet. I actually don't do that. I don't have second sock syndrome, thank goodness, yet. But whatever, it's a really great size for maybe 2 or 3 skein project. Maybe a 2 skein project. It's a pretty good size for a 2 skein project. I can't find the link to this one. People are selling them all over the place, and the ones I found at Job Lot were just like beach coolers with these same prints on them. And that's not what this is. So you're gonna have to find it yourself. Boca bag. For my next trick, my next whip, I am loom knitting a linen stitch slouchy hat. I am following a YouTube tutorial from Loom a Hat. I will link that, of course, below. That exact video. She has the video available for free with how to do the hat, and it shows how to do the cast-ons and bind-offs, which is what I really need because I haven't loom knit anything in a very long time. And then she has a written pattern available for $2 if you'd like to have a written pattern. I kind of just wrote down the pattern, and she gives this out for free, so I don't mind showing it. The written pattern, and I made tally marks 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9, right, and I cross them off as I go. That way I can make sure I get the right number of rows. But anyway, I like this tutorial. I'm going to talk for a minute about my materials. So I'll talk about the yarn first. This is Stitch Studio by Nicole Bell. It's 100% acrylic, it's red, and it's a number 6 super bulky. With these kinds of looms set at this gauge, I find a super bulky yarn works best, as does pretty much everybody on the internet is also telling me super bulky yarn works the best. You can use a bulky yarn. Super bulky gives you a nice tighter weave. I love this yarn. It comes in 300 gram hanks, so this is actually leftover. I made a scarf out of this, the Guarded Heart scarf sample, and then I had leftovers, so I'm making the hat. It's reasonably priced, it's soft, it's machine washable, the colors are vibrant. I really love it. Doesn't pill, doesn't shed, doesn't do anything weird like that. The loom. I am less satisfied with the loom. And I'm going to tell you why. This loom is a Boy brand loom. Okay? Boy is famous for making crochet hooks. They also apparently make knitting needles and looms. The crochet hooks are like their thing. That's what they're known for. That's what everybody knows them for. So I don't know if you can see, if I turn it kind of sideways. Let's look at kind of this peg right here. You see how it has like a little crochet hook kind of feel to it? Has a little slot. What happens is, if you look at this one, the yarn gets stuck there. And so then, when you're trying to do your next stitch, you have to kind of yank it down, and it's really difficult. I don't think I can even do it with one finger. But every time you pull a loop up and over, the bottom loop gets stuck up in there, and then you have to pull it out. And it's just irritating. The loom still works. It still produces a beautiful product. You can see my hat is coming out quite well. It's a slouchy hat, that's why it's so big. I hope that's why it's so big. I hope I'm not doing something wrong. But it's a slouchy hat. And you can see it's coming out quite well. But it's just irritating. So I'm going to link you to the set of looms I purchased from Boy. But I strongly recommend finding a different brand of loom. Go online, search for reviews. I believe the Nifty Knitter looms are what most people are using. I don't know that for sure, so definitely go check that out. The pattern, though, is really cute. It's called the Linen Stitch Slouchy Hat by Lumahat. It's got the slip stitches, and what it reminds me of is the very famous Knitting with Needles pattern, the Honey Cowl. This is obviously at a much smaller gauge. My mom knit this. I've been teaching her how to knit, and this is how I taught her how to slip stitches. But she fell in love with this yarn when we went to Webb's, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, you can make something with it, buy it, right? So if you fell in love with it that much, you should buy it. But it's a nice tonal red, bright, and it's got all those slip stitches in it. And if you look at it kind of next to the Honey Cowl, the Linen Stitch hat, they look very similar. That's just what it reminded me of. It reminded my mom of that, and she told me, and I'm like, yes, that's right. This one is a cheap tote I bought from Target Dollar Spot years ago. You can see it's coming apart right here. I would link it, but there's just no way I'm going to find it again. It was cheap. It's working for me so far. I'm not sure whether I'm going to throw away this bag or try and mend it. It was like $1 or something. Actually, I still have the price tag. Yep. Tote bag, $1. So it might not be worth mending. Maybe it'll just practice my mending skills. I'm not sure. My next work in progress is from the book Cuddly Animals to Crochet. 28 Cute Toys to Make and Love by Lucia Forthman. If I open it up, and I'm going to cover this up because it's a book I did pay for, and I don't want to give away any of the pattern instructions. It's this platypus is what I'm making. Percy the platypus. I am making him in colors that are very similar to Perry the platypus, the only platypus I know. If you ask someone in my generation, think of a famous platypus, I bet you money a lot of them would say Perry the platypus from Phineas and Ferb. I actually didn't do that on purpose. I just had some teal, and I had some sunflower color, and I had some brown, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, let's make Perry the platypus. Here's what I have so far. This is the body. So if I kind of open it up, this is the head. This is where the beak's gonna go. The eyes are gonna go roughly here-ish, and then legs attach along the sides. And then he'll have a big fluffy tail. This is coming out a lot bigger than I thought it was going to at first, but I really like that because stuffed animals should be big enough to cuddle. A lot of amigurumi comes out this big, and you can't really cuddle something that big. So I think it's great that the project is coming out this size. It's really stiff. It's at a really tight gauge. I've never crocheted anything at this tight of a gauge before, but I hope this will help with my stuffing problems where the stuffing comes out. And it's moldable, so I can like fold it and it'll stay, which is kind of cool. And when I'm crocheting on it in the round, I like to like tuck it under my arm, and crochet, 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 and then just kind of rotate it and tuck it under my arm, crochet, crochet, crochet. So that's that. This marker here I use for counting plain rounds. So if I have a plain round coming up, what I'll do is I'll move the marker up to the round before the plain round, and then knit plain rounds, and I can count from the marker 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and see, oh, I did 5 plain rounds. I need 11 or something like that. So it's just a helpful trick, and when I'm not using the marker, it just lives clipped to wherever I clipped it last. These are joined rounds, so I don't need a marker to mark the beginning of the round because I can tell where it is, but that's what I'm going for. Anyway, this yarn is Caron 1 pound in teal. I like working with it. It does split kind of a lot, but I think that's because I'm using such a small hook. Let me show you the hook I'm using. This is a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. So, compared to the size of the yarn, sometimes I grab part of the yarn, but I think that's just because I'm crocheting at such a tight gauge. I don't think that's a fault of the yarn. I also, for the beak, I'm going to be using Caron 1 pound in sunflower. So this is the Caron 1 pound in teal. This is Caron 1 pound in sunflower. This is Stitch Studio by Nicole Classic Plus in deep brown. This is Red Heart Super Saver in soft white. And then somewhere in here, I have a little scrap of Barocco Love It in black for the eyes. So the white will be for the whites of the eyes, the black will be for the blacks of the eyes, the yellow will be for the beak, and the brown will be for the tail. The bag I'm using is actually this basket because I have so many different big skeins of yarn I need. I don't know where I picked this up. I don't remember where we picked this up. I just found it in my house and claimed it. And that's what you gotta do sometimes. You gotta just find something in your house and claim it. As we all know, I am always working on Plarn. These are mats for the homeless to sleep on or sit on. It keeps them off the ground. It keeps them warm. It's especially important in the summer where the pavement is hot and in the winter when the pavement is cold. So I'm working on my 4th Plarn mat and it's coming along kind of slowly. I'm going to show you. I apologize for any rustling, but I don't think there has been that much rustling in my previous videos, so we'll see how this goes. Here it is. I'm using a lot of white because that's the kind of bags we have. We have a lot of white bags, so I'm just trying to use them up. It's coming along. It's coming along. The crocheting is coming along not so much because we have to make the Plarn. For the record, I'm using a Q hook. And these are 2-inch strips of Plarn. Sometimes 3-inch strips if somebody else cuts them and gives them to us, but usually 2-inch strips. Mom and I had a whole bunch of bags that we collected from the church that we had ourselves, and we have this great big box. And in this great big box, shoe boxes. And in these shoe boxes, we have loops of Plarn. And we probably have maybe 7 shoe boxes full of loops. Because my mom and I went on a cutting spree. We flattened all the bags, we folded them, we cut them. Now we just need to wind them into balls so I can crochet with them. But that part we've been kind of slacking on. So I have been kind of stunted in my progress here. But we have so much material that I'm super excited. I'm probably going to get started on it right after I finish this video. The bag I'm using, so I have that box for all the loops. The bag I'm using is an AC Moore jumbo bag. It says be your own kind of beautiful. It's like a reusable grocery bag, but it's huge. There's all kinds of patterns. They always come out with more different kinds of patterns, designs, holiday designs, stuff like that. I will link them. The link I used goes to the search results so you can find all the different patterns. But that's what I put my mat in, and I will do that later. So that's all my works in progress for knitting, crocheting, and loom knitting. I do have something else I did. My mom and I went to a sewing lesson. So the sewing lesson we went to was at the Stitchery, Rhode Island. It's run by 2 ladies, a knitter and a sewer, and they do lessons. So my mom and I took a private lesson, and we learned how to thread and use a machine, different stitch lengths, what they do, different stitch patterns, what they do, stuff like that, basic information. And for our final hurrah, we made this keychain. So Mama has one exactly like this, except her ribbon is blue with white polka dots. It's a piece of kind of nylon stuff, I don't know what it is, and a ribbon. And you put the ribbon down, you affix the ribbon to the keychain. You put the D-ring in, you sew a little seam right here to make it inside out, flip her around, and then sew a bunch of times over here to make it secure. The way we secured the ribbon, nylon stuff, was not with pins. It was actually with water-soluble tape, which sounds genius. So what it is it's tape that won't gunk up your sewing machine, and you put it down, and it helps you, people use it for things like zippers that are kind of tricky to pin. And then you can just wash whatever it is, and the tape will dissolve once you sew it. So you sew it out, you wash it up, and the tape goes away. Now, she showed us that if you want a cheaper substitute to that, or if you just can't find water-soluble tape, I linked to water-soluble tape, so you'll be able to find it. But this will work just fine. This is an Elmer's glue stick, washable glue stick. And this kind of does the same thing. It'll hold things together for you while you sew, and then when you wash the garment or whatever you're making, it'll just wash away. So that's really cool. The only trick with that is make sure it's completely dry before you start sewing, otherwise you'll gunk up your whole sewing machine. But I thought that was pretty cool, so we picked up some of those. Now, our next sewing project, my mom and I together have decided we need some reusable grocery bags because we have all this Plarn, so we don't need any more. And also, our local town, not our town, but the town next to us where we go for all of our shopping because our town doesn't have any shopping, is banning plastic bags. So we need to get some reusable bags, and I think it's better for the environment anyway to get some reusable bags. So we're gonna make some. We're gonna make some with the Magic Market bag pattern. We'll see how it goes. We bought fabric at Walmart, and I'm gonna show you the prints we bought. I believe we can get 2 bags of each of these prints, but we're not quite sure of the math there, so we're gonna figure that out. We have this fabric. It's gray with roses on it. We love gray in our house. Our walls are gray, everything is gray. We love gray. We have some of this kind of pattern. It's really cool. We have some butterflies. And these are all just cheap cotton. We decided to try it out on something kind of cheaper. The pattern does recommend using something a little bit more sturdy, so they'll last longer, but we didn't want to attempt to buy anything more expensive because we don't know what we're doing. So we're gonna make a couple with the cheap fabric, try them out, see if we like them, and then move on to making some with expensive fabric if we like it. We have this one. So these are our fabrics, and we're gonna try and make a reusable market bag. So that's pretty cool. All right, I believe I have talked about everything I want to talk about. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to find me, interact with me, whatever, links are in the description box below. Probably the best way to get into contact with me is a Ravelry message. My Ravelry profile will be down below, so I check Ravelry all the time. So that's probably the best way to get in touch with me quickly if you want to. But email works. I have an email address down there. Everything works. Thank you so much for watching. If you can remember, please do all that YouTube stuff, the liking, the commenting, the subscribing. It really means a lot to me to see those numbers grow, and I really want to build a kind of a community of people around this. So if you can, if you feel so moved, please do all the YouTube thingamajigs so we can grow as a community. Again, for like the 5th time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.